So we're still on 1E part 1, where we're going to be looking at how we create these validation rules and how we go about setting them up. Now I'd really encourage you to read the similar different task instructions. You should be anyway. These tutorials are just an addition to it, because in there it explains what we mean by different. It also explains about different browsers, and it also explains that this task has really been written for Dreamweaver, where all of these things can be done quite easily in Dreamweaver. But as most schools haven't got Dreamweaver, we're going to have a look at a different way of doing it. Now we'll go back up. We can see here the fields that we're going to validate, and we can have a look at them, think about some of the sorts of things we could do. We could potentially have a presence check on, or we could have a presence check on all of them, but we are asked to do different ones, so we really only need to do one presence check. We could make sure this is an email address. We could make sure this looks like a telephone number. We could make sure this is an actual date and this is an actual time, although they'd both be type checks, so we wouldn't want to do both of them, but there's no harm in putting the extra ones down just in case you get one wrong. We can make sure this is a number between 1 and 8, and of course our drop down box has already been done and set up, and that validates the data because you can only select the items in the drop down box. So let's have a look at doing a presence check first of all. Now this needs to be done using HTML5. So what I've done here is open this web page. The link is on the similar but different task instruction sheet, and if you scroll down you'll get to your HTML5 inputs. So if we have a look, in fact I've gone too far, so there we go, HTML input types, and you can see all the different types of inputs that we can actually use for them. So we're going to start by doing a presence check, and a presence check doesn't actually require HTML5 because we can just use something that exists in HTML already, and that is required, but we need to edit the source code. So I'm going to click on source at the bottom here, and that will now allow us to edit it. So let's have a look at our forename. So let's say, well actually I'm going to do surname. So with surname, if I want it to be a presence check, I just put on here required equals 2 speech marks. Okay, now if I save that and we press F5, we can check that it works. What I'm going to do is leave it blank and click on submit. There we go, please fill out this field. So that's that one done. That's great. Let's go back to our source code. Let's have a look at an email address type. So this is something that we can do using HTML5. So you would just scroll down here and find about where you get the email, but I'll just go through and show you on here. So here's our email address, and what we need to do here is say that we want it to be of a type email. So I put type equals email. And now what this will do is make sure it looks like an email address. So again, let's press F5, save it, and we'll see what happens. So I need to put something in the surname, and then we'll just put an email address in. So let's put exec@bbc. Let's just do that bit for now. Click on submit, and look, it's coming up with an error message showing us that it's not working. So that's brilliant. That's working so far. Okay, next one, let's have a look at the mobile phone number. Now when we look at the mobile phone number, if you've been looking online, you'll see that there is actually a type called tel, but notice it's only supported by Safari 8. In fact, Chrome really is the best one to use because most stuff is supported in that, but tel is only supported in Safari, and so there's no point even looking at that. What we're going to do is we're going to use an input tag, which we'll use and change that input tag to be a pattern, and then we're going to specify what we want that pattern to be. So here's our mobile phone field. Let's go to the source code, and then we can start to edit it. So scroll down to mobile phone, and this is where we now set it up. Okay, so I need to say that we want a pattern, and we need to say what that pattern is going to be. Now all phone numbers in the UK start with a 0. So we do pattern equals and then speech mark, and then we say what we want. So first of all, we say that we're going to have a 0 by putting that in square brackets. Now it's a mobile phone number, and we know that all mobile phone numbers, the second digit is a 7. Then we're going to have another 9 numbers, and those 9 numbers are going to be 0 to 9. Now I could just keep doing this and putting another 0 to 9 in, but it gets a bit tiresome. So what I'm going to do is open a bracket so that all of this bit stays together. We're going to have 0 to 9, and then I'm going to use the curly brackets. So it's not the rounded ones, it's a curly ones next to the letter P on your keyboard, and we say we want this to happen 9 times. Close the curly bracket, close the bracket overall, and that has set it up. Now what we can do is see whether or not that works. So let's try it. Let's press F5. We need to put in something for surname. We need to put in something for an email address. Now let's try a mobile phone number. Let's start with 4. There we go. Please match requested format. Right, okay, so 077777. Threw a few too sevens. That's brilliant. That's not working. Okay, so now let's try with 7. With 9 sevens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Doesn't matter what numbers we actually use. And we'll see if that works. And it doesn't, so we need to now work out what is going wrong. So to work out what's wrong, we'll need to go back to our source code and have a look, and oh gosh, this is what's happened. Okay, we forgot to put a speech mark at the end. So we'll take this all the way, input type pattern equals size, input size, it's about there. Put a speech mark after it, and really we ought to put this after the name. It doesn't normally make any difference, but we'll put it there instead, and let's see if that works this time. So we'll save this. Again, we've got to put in something in the other fields that we set up, and we'll set this up 07, and then we want to put 9 digits in. And let's click on, well, we can see that it's working because when we go to another field it's fine. If I click on submit, it's probably going to come up with an error message. So yeah, there we go. It's done, sort of done a confirmation form, but there's a couple of things missing. Okay, so if you want some detail about how the pattern works, you can have a look at this website. That website, again, it's in the main instructions for the similar but different tasks. Now we'll move on to have a look at the date. Well, before we do, you notice that the user isn't actually told how that format should actually work. And what we can do is we can put in here a placeholder. And what this will do is put an instruction in there. So I'm going to put enter a phone number starting with 07 and no spaces. Let's have a look, see if that works. There it is, and you can see it's not quite in, so we just need to change the size of that field. So let's go for something like 45 so that we can see it, and again let's save and see what comes up. There we go. Oh, a little bit of a problem, probably because I've forgotten the speech mark again. So let's just make sure we finish with a speech mark here as well, because if you notice a strange pause, that's because I'd missed it out. And we'll check this works again. So press F5, and there we go. There's our instruction. Okay, so we've got a couple more that we can look at doing now. We've got date. So if we go down to date, and this is simply a case of type equals date. And similarly for time, we're going to use type equals time. We'll test those in a moment. For guests, we're going to put a range in there. So what we can do here is say what our minimum will be. We also need to say that it's going to be a type of number. So we'll put type equals number. What the minimum will be. Okay, we're told to have between 1 and 8 guests. Don't forget these speech marks. And what the maximum will be. So max will be 8. Okay, so we'll save that, and let's just refresh this page. Oh look, there's our date. It's come up right, so we know that's doing it a type date. Our time's doing a type time. Number of guests, let's try entering 0. Oh, of course we need to have something in there, don't we? abc.com, and we'll put in 07 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9, and then we can try 0 here. There we go. Must be greater than or equal to 1. Let's try 9. Great. And we'll put in 8. Everything's working. That's brilliant. And of course you've already, oh there we go, that's the confirmation form. You've already set up a validation rule for the drop down box for restaurant. So all that's left to do now in the next tutorial is look at how to go about annotating it. In fact, there's not actually going to be a tutorial about annotating from now on, because what I'd expect you to do is look at the sample answers and look at the instructions, and that will talk you through the things that you need to do for annotation, whereas the video tutorials are now from now on going to be more about the actual skills that you're using.